Assalamu alaikum. In this lecture, we will discuss the remaining MCQs from the question paper number 12 from March 2023, right? From A-level biology. So now let's start. DNA polymerase catalyzes the condensation reaction between the molecules in the semi-conservative replication of the DNA. What is joined by the DNA polymerase? As we know that DNA polymerase is involved in the DNA replication, and it joins the one nucleotide with the another one. So we can find out that option number C here is the right answer. Two polynucleotide strands make up a DNA molecule in the form of a double helix. Which description is correct? The percentage of cytosine is 50% to that of the guanine. No. Cytosine always bind with the guanine, so the concentration of both should be equal. The percentage of the cytosine is the same as that of the guanine in the whole molecule. Yes. The percentage of the cytosine is the same as that of the guanine in the each strand. This is somehow correct, but we have to consider the whole DNA molecule. So we can say that the option number B here is the right answer. The PDX1 protein is found in a wide range of the animal species where it is regarded as essential for the normal metabolism. In sand rats, this is the gene coding for the PDX1 protein has a much lower proportion of the A and the adenine and the thymine nucleotides than the PDX gene from the other animals. Finding the complete DNA sequence of the PDX gene in the sand rats has been difficult. Sequencing involves the splitting of the nucleotides one at a time from a single stranded DNA. What could account for the difficulty in finding the DNA sequence for the PDX gene in the sand rats? What is the reason we find it difficult to find out the DNA sequence of the PDX gene? What is the reason? The PDX gene is present in only a small portion of the nuclei. The gene is always present in a small portion of the nuclei, so this is not the most accurate answer. PDX1 gene is transcribed in only some cells. Obviously, where there will be required, it will be transcribed only in that cells. So it is not the most appropriate answer. The strength of the hydrogen bonding between the two strands of the PDX gene is really high, as the two strands of that particular gene has the hydrogen bonding which is very high strength. So it is difficult to degrade, to remove that particular hydrogen bonding. That's why it becomes difficult to find out the particular DNA sequence of the PDX gene. So we can say that option number D here is the right answer, because we find out the three only the right reason. Different tissues in a plant were supplied with a radioactively labeled substance to identify whether these tissues are actively synthesizing the messenger RNA. So, which radioactively labeled substance would be suitable for this experiment? Adenine, uracil, inorganic phosphate and ribose. Adenine cannot be suitable for this because they have the very low amount of the adenine molecules. Uracil, yes, uracil can be the most suitable because it is it is present in a more amount in the messenger RNA. Inorganic phosphate, it is not appropriate because it is present in a very low amount. Ribose sugar, yes, ribose sugar can be radioactively labeled in order to perform this experiment. So we can say that the uracil and the ribose can be radioactively labeled to find out that either the messenger RNA is actively synthesizing or not. So option number C here is the right answer. Which rules correctly matches the structure and the function of the phloem seed tube elements? Structure is peripheral cytoplasm with no nucleus. Yes, it is peripherally present. Cytoplasm is present along the peripherals, and it do not have any nucleus. So this is accurate one. As the function is concerned to provide as little resistance to flow as possible. Yes, it provides little resistance to the flow so that the ions and the sugar molecules can pass through it easily. And was modified to form the C plates, yes, to slow down the rate of the transport of the solute. It does not slow down. It maintains a steady rate of the transport of the solutes. Elongated cells join end to end, yes, to form a tube to transport the dissolved mineral ions in the water tube. It does not form any tube. Cellulose cell wall with no lignin. It is not related to it. Yes, it prevents the loss of the water. So we find out that option number A here is the right answer. Which feature of the xylem vessel elements help the adhesion during the transpiration? Lignin forms a complete secondary wall. It's okay, but it is not related to the adhesion point of view. New vessels carry extra water as the plants grow. No, they carry only that particular amount of water which is required to carry for them. There are no cross walls between the vessel elements. Yes, it can be. But it is not related to the adhesion point of view. So the vessel elements form a narrow tube. When the vessel elements will form a narrow tube, then it will help the water molecules to adhere with its wall and will prevent themselves from to be lost from the plant during the process of transpiration. So option number D here is the right answer. Mass flow is the bulk movement of the materials from the one place to another. How many of the vessels listed carry the fluids by the mass flow? Artery contains only that particular liquid which is required to carry for it. Phloem sieve tubes only require only that particular veins. Only the xylem vessels are those which carry the bulk, which can carry the bulk movement of the materials from the one place to another. So we can find out that xylem vessel is the right answer. So cellulose, lignin and the suberin are the components of the various plant cell walls. Description of these cell wall components are listed. A component of the Casparian strip redirects the water into the symplast pathway. A hydrophobic component of the cell wall, water interacts with this molecule in the apoplast pathway. Which row correctly matches the three of these descriptions with the cell wall components? So we have to find out the correct option. So we can say that a component of the Casparian strip. It can be the suberin. Suberin is a component of the Casparian strips, right? Redirects the water into the symplast pathway. None of these components is involved in the direction of the water into the symplast pathway, so it rules out. A hydrophobic component of the cell wall. Lignin can be the hydrophobic component of the cell wall because it has the hydrophobic ends. It repels water, and water interacts with this molecule in the apoplast pathway. Cellulose, as we know that apoplast pathway is involved the transport of the water molecules from the one cell to another cell through the cell wall, not passing through from that particular cytoplasm. So we can say that it is the right one. So we have to find out the accurate option here, and then we will say that cellulose, here comes the point 4, and lignin is concerned, here comes the point 3. As the suberin is concerned, here comes the point 1. So we can find out that the option number D here is the right answer. So the arrows show the direction of the water movement across the plant root from the water into the soil to the xylem. These are the plasmodesmata structures. This is the cytoplasm and this is the cell wall. Which row shows the movement only through in the apoplast pathway? As we know that apoplast pathway involves the movement of water from cell wall to cell wall. Cell wall, not including cytoplasm. So we can see here all the points, and we find out that only the point number 2 and the point number 4 are the passage of the water, which is involves only the cell walls, not any cytoplasm. So we can say that option number C here is the right answer. Which row correctly identifies the sources and sink of the sugars? Root cells absorbing the mineral ions, storage cells of the seeds that is starting to grow. Which row correctly identifies the sources and sink of the sugars? So we have to find out the correct answer here. And the root cells do not store the sugars; they just can use the sugar and the processes and all. But the seeds can be the sources of the sugars, because there can be the formation of the sugars, and they can retain that particular sugars. So we can say that option number A here is the right answer. The root cells goes for the sink, and the seeds goes for the sources. The photomicrograph shows a section through a tissue with an artery. So which row correctly shows the type of the artery and whether the blood inside the artery is oxygenated or deoxygenated? As we know that there are some black shadows we can see along with the particular cell walls. So it represents that that particular tissue is deoxygenated, right? And whether it is the muscle or elastic tissue, it can be a muscular tissue, because it shows a lot of the cells here and a lot of elasticity here, a lot of cells here. So we can say that option number A here is the right answer. Heart surgery may cause a decrease in the transmission of the impulses in the Purkinje tissue to the right side of the heart. As we know that Purkinje tissue is present in the atrioventricular node. So what is the possible effect of the decrease? Impulse would be delayed by the atrioventricular node. No, it is not delayed. It will be at the same rate. It will slow down, but it will be not delayed. The muscle of the right ventricle would contract slightly more slowly than the muscle of the left ventricle. Yes, because the right ventricle atrioventricular node, the Purkinje tissues are present and their function slows down. So the movement of the blood from there will be slowed down, and so we can relate it to the movement of the blood from the right ventricle to that of the muscle of the left ventricle in this way. The muscle of the right atrium would not be contract, it is not related to it. So option number B here is the right one. The diagram shows a network of the blood vessels that supply the blood to the muscle tissues in the human body. What is the correct comparison between the blood at the X and the blood at the Y when the muscle tissues are at the rest? As we can see here that the X is the narrow one and the Y is the broader one. So whenever the blood will pass through the X, then its pressure will be higher. So we have to find out the option with the higher. There are the two options which have that the pressure at the X is higher. So water potential will be higher at the Y or lower at the Y and vice versa. So we have, as the Y is the wider portion, so here is the water potential of the blood will be higher as compared to that of the X. So we can say that the option number C here is the right answer. Scientists have shown that oxygen dissociation curve for the hemoglobin of the smaller mammals are to the right of those of the larger mammals. What does this suggest about the hemoglobin of the smaller mammals? At the low partial pressures, it binds to the oxygen more strongly than the hemoglobin of the larger mammals. No, it is not related to it. The binding power of the oxygen remains same whether there are the small mammals or there are the larger mammals. It saturates with the oxygen at a lower partial pressure of the oxygen than the hemoglobin of the larger mammals. No, it is not. It releases the oxygen more slowly than the hemoglobin of the larger molecules. Yes, the smaller molecules they releases oxygen more slowly and as compared to that of the larger molecules, larger mammals, right? So option number C here is the right answer, because the reason behind is that the larger mammals has required a large amount of the oxygen, because they have the huge body and they require the large amount of the oxygen for their particular functions. But the smaller mammals require only a small amount of the oxygen. That's why they require a small amount of the oxygen for their proper functioning. So we can say that the larger mammals will release oxygen more slowly as compared to that of the smaller mammals. 35 is concerned, what is the effect of the increased concentration of the carbon dioxide gas in the blood? Increased concentration of the carbon dioxide gas in blood, increased movement of the chloride ions out of the blood cells, increased concentration of the hemoglobinic acid. Yes, it can be to increase in the concentration of the hemoglobinic acid, because the more carbon dioxide gas will be present, there will be the more acid, and the more oxygen will be present, there will be the more combination with the hemoglobin. So hemoglobinic acid will be increased. Two of the requirements of an efficient gaseous exchange system are a large surface area and a short diffusion distance. Which row correctly shows how alveoli are adopted to meet the requirements? Because alveoli are basically folded and they are interconnected with each other, and so they have the larger surface area to move the carbon dioxide gas out and oxygen in of the blood, and walls of the alveoli are only one cell thick. They are thick to much extent which is required for the efficient gaseous exchange. So option number C here is the right answer. Which define the infectious diseases? Symptoms are caused by the bacteria that passes from the contaminated air, soil or the water to a host. Symptoms are caused by a pathogen. Pathogen, when we will use the word pathogen, then it can include the bacteria, virus, anything, right? That is transmitted from the one host to the another. Symptoms are caused by the microorganism that is carried by the vector. Symptoms are caused by the virus that mutates through. Whenever we use the word pathogen, that includes all the bacteria, viruses, microorganisms, whatever that can cause a disease. So option number B here is the right answer, because it is covering all the aspects of the infectious diseases. A hurricane destroys a large town on an island. People moved away from the town and set up the tents where the sanitation is poor. Which disease is more likely to spread within a week of the change in the living conditions? Cholera, HIV, malaria and the TB. Cholera can be easily spread from there, because even if anyone has the rough sanitation conditions, then it can easily then they can easily catch the cold and the fever and the flu and the throat infections. Means they can easily call the cholera. Which statement correctly explains why the viruses are unaffected by the penicillin? Penicillin is basically an antibiotic. It is not antiviral drug. So how can it work for the viruses? But we have to find out the correct option here. Penicillin only affects the whole cell metabolism. Penicillin only affects the whole cell metabolism. No, it affects the bacterial metabolism. Penicillin only binds with the 70S ribosome. It do not bind with it. It performs its own. It binds with the bacteria and destroys it. Penicillin only blocks the messenger RNA synthesis in the prokaryotes. It destroys the whole function of the bacteria. Penicillin only blocks the peptidoglycan synthesis. Yes, penicillin do block the peptidoglycan synthesis, that is the cell wall of the bacteria. So in this way, when the cell wall of the bacteria will not be present there, then the bacteria will be more susceptible to damage. So penicillin can easily destroy that particular bacteria. So we can say that option number D here is the right one. Which processes characterize the mode of the action of the phagocytosis? Antibody production, no antibody production is not involved in the phagocytosis. It's just the engulfing of the solid particles. Receptor binding, yes, phagocytosis involves the binding of that particular material to the receptors of that particular cell so that it can move inside that cell. Endocytosis, yes, endocytosis is a part of the phagocytosis. Exocytosis means something is moving out of the cell. Hydrolysis means the breakdown of a particular substance, and whenever it is breakdown, then it can be phagocytosed by the special macrophages. So we can say that option number C here is the right one. So today's lecture goes finished here. We will meet you in the next lecture. Till then, stay tuned and Allah Hafiz.